health tip of the day. Drink water every day. Like, this much. Don't attempt to do it all in one sitting. Also, yeah. It's Update Monday! What's been going on with you, big dog? And it is an amazing Monday. I hope your Monday has been as rejuvenating as mine, especially after hearing or feeling some good news. So before I delve into the interesting news, I just gotta say, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks of kicking rheumatoid arthritis' ass, but that's actually what I want to talk to you about. In my Yu-Gi-Oh! On the Budget series, I talked to you guys about how just because you're in remission doesn't mean you can't experience flare-ups. And last week was my experience of my first real flare-up in quite some time. My feet started to become really tingling and my thumb actually locks up. It's points in times where it's just like this and I can't do all of this stuff. It's really weird. Now, the sensations that I were feeling were really light, and oftentimes I actually do have the thumb thing, but the thing that made this different than any other time is that this is around the time last September that I started to experience this RA feeling, and it kind of made me depressed. Depressed might not be the best way to say it, but it definitely sent me into a state of panic. I literally did not want to experience that again. I had to find my safe space. So a lot of the older people like to make fun of my generation, millennials and forward, for having a safe space. But if you think about how they grew up in their generation, boy, they really needed one, if anything. Going off on a little bit of a side tangent just to show you how far apart we are in generations, domestic violence was actually okay in the older generations. If anything, it was just, yo, you hit your wife on the face? Well, make sure she cooks the roast next time correctly. What? Guys, I am here to tell you, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how you look or who you are, it is perfectly fine to have a safe space. My safe space is actually down here in my office. I like to go through my collection, sometimes sort cards, and sometimes even buy cards to add to my collection. It makes me feel a lot better. I also like to do a lot of research on this card game, and that's actually how I'm able to show you the meta tier list. That's right, we haven't done one in so long. It is time to show you what are the best decks, what are the second best decks, all the way down to the, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Decks that you may want to reconsider playing inside of this format. So with all that out of the way, I got my tier list ready. Let's jump on in and show you how awesome Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be in this format. So I am dumb excited to show you this tier list. I know it's been so long, but there are a few things that I need to get out of the way just so we know exactly what we're getting into. The first is that this tier list is going to be post the 2021 Megatons, but before Burst of Destiny. I'm also going to include the Cyber Strike structure deck when factoring in this tier list, so there you have it. I'll be able to do another tier list post Burst of Destiny, as that is more than likely going to change the entirety of the meta, but seeing that that isn't for an entire month, we can wait on that. The next thing I want to address is that since the format is new, I am going to make some very, very hot takes. Now, of course, I'm going to back up my hot takes with a perspective of showing you how these strategies can actually fulfill the role that we're in or why they aren't so good as they once were. But of course, as we go deeper into the format, that would only prove these takes right or wrong. Hopefully you can be a part of that to prove my takes right. And in case you've forgotten, this tier list is broken down into different sections. Meta changers are the decks that necessarily define the format, while tier 1 are decks that can go against meta changers consistently. Those tier 1 decks don't necessarily define the format, but as I said, they can go toe to toe with the meta changers. Tier 2 decks are decks that can't necessarily go against the meta changers, but are good decks overall. And Rogue, of course, is strategies that have to be built and tailored to be able to combat certain strategies, whatever your meta is. Oh no, what are you doing, baby? Kind of self-explanatory, so let's go ahead and jump on this tier list. I'm going to start by pulling out the meta changer decks and explaining why they are the meta changer decks, starting off with Drytron. Now, Drytron, unfortunately, is still one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's mainly because it's one of the only decks that gets stronger with the 2021 Megatons, keeps its status, can play Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and summons almost an infinite amount of negates. It losing Evo to 1 doesn't necessarily mean anything because it still stands that even if Drytron does
does get disrupted, at the very worst, they can more often than not still make Herald of Perfection and Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. That is still monstrous. If a strategy wants to consistently beat Drytron, they need to open a plethora of hand traps, hope Drytron bricks, or just be a strategy that is built to playing through these type of disruptions. The next meta changer deck is still going to be BBW. Why would you think, let me put BBW in front, I don't like Drytron, but why would you think this would be any different? It losing zoo cards like Zodiac Barrage and then Fire Formation Tinky does not matter. You still have Rescue Cat that can still set up Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. This deck is still built on Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast, getting them to the graveyard and abusing your Tri-Brigade Revolt to be able to special summon Tri-Brigade Shirake, which is a free banishment. The third and final best strategy in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Virtual World. Immediately, the reason why Virtual World is so good is because the cards that stop these two cards that you have to play like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, are almost useless against this strategy. Virtual World also is able to summon Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon at ease before Nibiru a lot of times, and has Virtual World QB Shinshin, was a card that keeps coming back and banishing your cards. Virtual World Chu-Chi is also Zodiac Dryden, a card that is on the Forbidden List, being able to recycle its resources to destroy a card on your side of the field. Virtual World is almost unfair inside of this format. Let me put this above Drytron because I just don't like Drytron. Now that we have that established, moving on into our meta tier list, I'm going to start off with Dinos, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to put Dinos in Rogue. Now, if Misk were at 3, Dinos could very well probably much be meta changer to tier 1, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Dino is a deck that really loves to go second, and Misk helps that greatly, being able to prevent your Dino monsters from being interrupted on your way to making the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, which handles every single one of these threats, and it can attack all of your opponent's monsters. Boy, Dino is amazing. Now, there is some solace to Dino. We are getting Animador and Archosaur as an ultra rare inside of the 2021 Megatins, so maybe players will probably try that out again. But the only problem is that Scrap Chimera is a $40 super rare, so that may keep the budget players away from playing Dinos, and seeing that it hasn't been proven in quite some time, Dino just may stay in that rogue category. Now, Burning Abyss is a strategy that I have to put at, I really want to put it at tier 2. Now, Burning Abyss does struggle against decks like Drytron and has a not so great matchup against Virtual World, but against Tri-Brigade, it can do fairly well. Trap cards like Paleozoic Dynamiscus and Karma Cut not only allow you to get rid of some of this deck's important cards before they can activate their effects, Burning Abyss also plays no cards to be hit with Crossout Designator if you are playing a trap-based build. If you decide to forego hand traps, then Crossout Designator literally becomes a useless card against Burning Abyss, and that's where this strategy can thrive. Regardless, making Divine Arsenal AA Zeus and Utopic Draco is something in this deck's arsenal. I gotta put it at tier 2. Adamantipator is, oh man, I think that this might be the second best combo deck, like right after Drytron. Now, hear me out. Adamantipator has always had a knack from being able to play around hand traps because of Quackymiro Guardian, but it's a cool thing when you start off your combo with Quackymiro Guardian and Tri-Brigade Revolt literally can't respond to it. Also, banishing your rock monsters may not be the best thing in the world, but it doesn't really hurt you. A well-timed Chu-Chi could stop your Adamantipator monsters, but I mean, well-timed Chu-Chi can stop a lot of things. Against the Drytron matchup, yeah, this is a very interesting matchup, but keep in mind Adamantipator is going to be a lot harder to hand trap. Will Crossout Designator, Triple Tactics Talent. It can play cards like Forbidden Droplets to counteract the situation, and if, like I said again, Quackymiro Guardian can stop those hand traps that Drytron wants to play. This strategy is a lot better than what people think. I'm also going to have to put Altergeist in the tier 1 strategy. This seriously should be a cold take. Altergeist is actually a really good strategy, and I'll be able to name a couple reasons why. In a format where spell disruption like Imperial Order and monster negation like Infinite Impermanence reigns king, why wouldn't a deck that plays like 8 monster disruptions or 8 effect negators and 4 Imperial Orders not be good? Come on now. Secret Village of the Spellcasters literally can turn off this strategy, and while the monster negates can definitely deal with Tri-Brigade, this strategy is a lot better than what people think, especially if you already have a face-up Altergeist protocol on the field. That means that your Altergeist monsters can't even be negated. Altergeist is a lot better than what people will give it credit, but I'm just telling you, you gotta play Infinite Impermanence inside of that deck and gain the advantage of Infinite Impermanence Multi-Faker. I'm going to go ahead and put Amazement at that. Oh no, what are you doing, baby? This strategy, unfortunately, should not be played as a deck. It doesn't necessarily have the cards to make it its own strategy. It's better off as an engine right now. And the problem with that is because this strategy doesn't have a mid-game. Arlecchino is way too hard, and it's a reactive card as opposed to a true boss monster like Shin Shin or Tri-Brigade Revolt, being able to summon Shiraig whenever you want to, or even Herald of Perfection. Also, the monsters are a little too fair for this to be a strategy by itself, but when you combine it with decks like Altergeist and other trap-based decks, you can enhance that strategy. B-Trooper, I don't know, this should also be a code take because B-Trooper is legitimately a tier 1 deck. B-Trooper provides a constant resource of monsters that are really hard to get around. They're pesky insects. Also, being able to special summon Invincible Atlas, which is stronger than any meta card, and has some pretty good protections to himself, as well as provide a constant stream of monsters, is really good. B-Trooper's only drawback right now is that it doesn't have enough B-Trooper extra deck monsters, but that may change with Burst of Destiny. Cyber Dragon is unfortunately, I want to put Cyber Dragon in tier 2, but I gotta put my babies in Rogue. So Cyber Dragon does have a great matchup against Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, which low-key is an FTK against all 3 of these decks. Like man. But the problem is, this deck can't make Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess with ease, so that's a thing. Adamantavator also can make Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess as well, so I thought I should say that beforehand. This deck's strategy is really good at dealing with extra deck monsters, but I mean, that's not really a huge problem in this meta. I'm not trying to down Cyber Dragon, as being able to make Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is still really fun. And then it also gets better in Cyber Strike, but I'm not sure if that's enough to even put it to the tier 2 status. I think it still stays Rogue, and it's really unfortunate. Attic Nister is a solid tier 2 deck though, mainly because that Arrival Attic Nister can be 6,000 attack and unaffected by card effects. Literally don't care what any of these decks do. If you summon that monster to your side of the field, it's a problem. Also, Crossout Designator in the 2021 Mega Tens helps this strategy greatly, as it has so much room to be able to play those hand traps and does suffer from a hand trap problem. So Crossout Designator helps here. Despia is you know what? Despia by itself, I feel, is a solid Rogue deck. I feel like it's like that tweener in between Rogue and tier 2. I'm going to go ahead and put it as Rogue as a deck by itself, but as an engine for other decks, oh man, this strategy is really, really good. So the problem with Despia's right now is that they don't have a mid game. It can consistently summon its Quiritus and have its field spell and branded Theater on the side of the field, which is actually oppressive. You never know how hard it is to get rid of a card until it's sitting on the field and it says all your monsters become 0 attack, and hey, if you get rid of me, I'll just cycle more monsters to my side of the field, which will cycle more monsters to my side of the field. Again, the only problem with Despia is that it doesn't have a follow-up. Once the strategy gets a follow-up or finds an engine that is a really good follow-up, you're going to be in trouble because this is really good. I'm going to go ahead and make another spicy hot take. I'm going to bring zombies out of Rogue, and I'm going to go ahead and put them into... I want to put them here. So look, this is what happens. If this moves up here and this moves up here, this goes right here. Easy. But seeing that these two strategies are still right here, I feel like it's a solid tier 2 deck. The reason why is because this is one of the only strategies that can employ super polymerization and does not care about what deck you play. Everything becomes tribal with Zombie World on the field, fuse any of these boards, and ruin their strategies like Tri-Brigade, Rocks, and B-Troopers just by existing. This deck actually got a lot better, and I actually have a profile I might be doing on Twitch today, so go ahead and check me out. I will be having a Twitch session today at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I feel like Eldritch is a solid tier 2 deck alongside of Zombie World, whether you play these two in tandem or you play Eldritch as a stun build. The reason why Eldritch will struggle to keep up is because it's a slower deck, and once these decks start citing in their lightning storms and stuff like that, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's a lot harder. Once Eldritch gets outpaced, it's almost no way getting back into the game. It's extremely hard, as you really don't have the genuine answers to create your own tempo. Eldritch the Golden Lord is a free removal of any card on the field and can summon itself as 3,500 and indestructible though, so I think that's pretty commendable. Fun fact, we actually tested these two decks together on stream and it went pretty well. Now here is going to be a bold take. I'm going to put Elemental Heroes at the cusp of tier 1 and tier 2, And I'm going to go ahead and make another take and say the reason why you don't see this strategy as much is because it's dumb expensive. But Elemental Heroes are going to be a solid low-end tier 1 deck because of Crossout Designator. This is a deck that can be designed to go second, playing cards like Crossout Designator, Forbidden Droplets, Super Polymerization, Triple Tactics Talent, all of the good cards to go second and destroy your opponent's board, and then follow up with the OTK. I strongly believe that Heroes have a really solid place in this format, and I'm going to double down on my top 5 decks of the format and say that Heroes are in a very solid spot. Crossout Designator does help a lot. Pure Shadows. Oh man, how the mighty have fallen. I'm gonna say Pure Shadows are oh no, what are you doing, baby? The reason why I say Pure Shadows are oh no, what are you doing, baby, is because you don't want to draw Shadow monsters. Now, I have to say Shadows have to be mixed with a certain deck. If we're talking about Invoke Dogmatica, which I don't have a template for here, don't know why, I would put Invoke Dogmatica at tier 1. That's a solid tier 1 deck. Winda does slow these decks down, and it does have the resources to be able to start keep nicking and punching, and it can play a billion hand traps, something that Crossout Designator isn't going to have answers for every single one. But Shadal's Pure, I'm going to put oh no, what are you doing, baby? Shadal Despia, I'm going to put as Rogue. Shadal Invoked, I'm going to put as a solid tier 1 strategy. Live Twin, I'm going to put into the Rogue category. I think that this deck is really, really good. But what we're really waiting on is that new Link, the Link 4 monster. I want to call it Trouble Sunny. I don't think that that's the correct name. But once that card comes up, I think we can readdress it. Probably even put it to tier 2 or tier 1. But the problem with Evil Twin, Live Twin, is that it suffers the same thing as Despia. The new strategies, it seems, don't seem to have a mid game. You just kind of get stuck in neutral, and you need to like top deck that mystery card or already have that card in your hand to keep playing. It doesn't feel good. Grin Maju, I think, is a very solid tier 2 deck. This deck can play macro, which is almost every single one of these decks are affected by. And of course, Grin Maju is just a monster stronger than almost any other monster in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game and can one punch for game. This is a very, very, very solid tier 2 deck as well, almost for the exact same reasons as Grin Maju. It can play macro-like cards, which disrupts almost every single deck above it. But more importantly, this strategy is built on being able to link off your opponent's monsters. Now, you would think that just because it plays macro, it would put it to tier 1-ish. But the problem with these two strategies is that it can't consistently get to that macro card. And on top of that, these strategies aren't, I don't want to say they're inconsistent for the players out there that are repping these decks, but they're not consistent enough to take away enough games from the meta changer decks to be considered tier 1. Earth Machine is another solid tier 2 deck. It's a tier 2 deck. I want to say it's a meta changer, dog, but it's a tier 2 deck. Earth Machine is amazing at being able to recycle its resources and keep up with some of the best decks. But the problem is once these decks get started and this deck doesn't, it's a problem. This deck will take an L. Madolche is also another really good tier 2 deck. It's almost, actually I'm going to make a bold take and say it's tier 1. And the reason why is because it's the same reason as Hero. Madolche can go second, play cards like Crossout Designator, play cards like Lightning Storm and such, and as long as it can stun your board and prevent you from hand trapping them, they win. They literally can OTK you going second. So it's a deck that can easily handle decks like Drytron, mainly because it can play Herald of Orange Light alongside Crossout Designator, which is almost 6 ways to stop your opponent from hand trapping you. It can deal with Red Eyes Dark Dragoon as Tiramisu does not target. It's fairly solid as a deck. I think it's tier 1 post to 2021 Megatens. Mech Knight is Rogue. Unfortunate, guys. This deck can play columns really well, but these really don't care about the columns as you can't generate enough advantage from Mech Knights. If you guys haven't noticed, for the exception of Drytron, these decks don't play a lot of cards on the side of the field. There's like maybe 2-3 cards, maybe 2-3 cards. And Mech Knights really need to thrive when your opponent has like, this is my board, you know what I mean? Regardless, it's a very solid going second deck that can still compete. I would want to put Prank Kids to tier 1, but I think the Meow Meow Mew hit definitely makes them tier 2. I think that Prank Kids are still really, really good and people are just sleeping on them. What you have to do, in my opinion, is switch away from the normal summon and go full combo and start playing Polymerization. You run, you run 16 ways to get into Prank Kid monsters. Statistically, you'll always have 2 Prank Kids monsters, meaning that Polymerization will always be live. So take advantage of that Polymerization being able to fuse, put back in that totally awesome combo. I think that this deck will be ready to roll, and possibly, since you can fit so many hand traps, this could be tier 1 because of Crossout Designator and at the end, towards the end of this format. Rocket Dragon Link, oh man, this deck. I said that this deck was tier 1, so I'm going to stick by my guns, chat. This is definitely a bold take. I ain't gonna cap. This is a bold take. This is the boldest of bold takes. Now, what Rocket Dragon Link has going for it is that it's still a really good chaos deck that's hard to hand trap. This deck can play really well under pressure and can still make seal tiding, which is it's good. It's non-targeting removal, and then a bounce and another removal, which prevents your opponent from making some huge play boards. This strategy can also switch up from combo to mid-range. I think that's where it's best suited. And while hand traps may suffer, this can actually probably move to a more trap-based build to address some of those hard counters that these decks may have. Like, nah, it's not really a hard counter that these decks may have. Maybe just against Drytron, but these two matchups are fair. Not necessarily sided for Rocket, but definitely fair. Solomon Great. Oh man, Solomon Great's tier 2. And I hate to say it. Solomon Great's just, this tier list is killing me, man. I want Solomon Greats to be tier god too, but the problem with Solomon Greats against these decks is that a well-timed charade just kind of ruins the strategy. It's not fun. A Shin hurts a lot, and let's not talk about this deck. This deck is not bad at going second if it draws a whole bunch of hand traps, but we just talked about how Crossout Designator is a card that's going to exist, at least at some capacity, and at the way that we're looking, if it exists in everybody's deck, at least for the time being, I don't think it's good enough to consistently be in everybody's deck, but for the time being, Solomon Great might be at best tier 2 because you'll start hand trapping them. They'll cross out Designator. You need at least 2 in Solomon Great to stop some of these good boards and be able to pop off with your combo. Not looking good. Sky Strikers is another solid tier 2 deck. We got a lot of tier 2s in here. I feel that Sky Striker is really good. I don't think it has a chance against these decks, unfortunately, especially Shin being able to banish all their spell cards. Granted, they do have Afterburners and Widowanker, but now that they have to use Afterburners and Widowanker on Shin, you can focus your strategy on being able to just disrupt their graveyard and stuff like that, disrupt their important cards. Against this matchup, it's a little more fair, but once Tri-Brigade starts to realize that, oh, you're playing Sky Strikers, it becomes a little more one-sided, as I could see the Rescue Cat version starting to play Naturia Beast if that deck ever became good. I mean, Naturia Beast is literally just Imperial Order, so like, I mean, there's that. And then Drytron doesn't really care about Sky Strikers. I don't think so. Unfortunately, I'd love to put Sky Strikers higher too, but I don't think that Sky Strikers would be able to compete with these decks fairly easily. Guru's significantly worse than Altergeist, and normally we put these two decks together, but Guru's worse than Altergeist because Altergeist actually is format right now. It has the tools to be able to fight against these decks. Guru does not. Guru is a little slow, requires its field spell. Back row destruction is a little bit higher right now, so if you can stop that Hidden City, this deck kind of slows down tremendously. It's not even stopping Guru. If it had 6 ways to have Hidden City, okay, good. But Guru is not Hidden City. You need Hidden City. Like, if you don't have that, you're not doing as much. You're not doing so hot. So unfortunately, I'm going to put Guru and Rogue for that reason. Being able to spell summon Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, though, for free is pretty good. And lastly is Phantom Knights, another bold take. I said it was tier 1 last format. I'm going to say that Phantom Knights are tier 1 this format. And it's almost the reason why Altergeist, while this strategy doesn't have like the infinite impermanences and the Imperial Orders, what this strategy does have is Fog Blades, searchable interactions that can't be Crossout Designator because we know damn well these strategies aren't going to play it. So that's also really good. Also, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon may not be the best Yu-Gi-Oh card in Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's still a threat that some of these decks will struggle to address at certain points in time. Phantom Knight can make some of those boards that are just terribly awesome, and your opponent is going to have a really hard time to deal with. Well, that is all for today's tier list. I really hope you enjoyed it. And again, if you want to see me on Twitch, I will be there 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so be there or be square. Also, if you have enough time, I want you to tell me what exactly did you like about this tier list? What did you think was wrong about it? And if you just want to catch more PG Cali, go ahead and check out these videos, as I'll catch you on the next one.